Starting today, we will interpret a book published in September 2022 called Starry Messenger. Cosmic Perspectives on Civilization, authored by the renowned astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, whom we are familiar with. We have previously interpreted his Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. The title of this book has two allusions. In 1610, Galileo published a book called Starry Messenger, which brought about a tremendous revolution in knowledge, marking humanity's first real understanding of the world beyond Earth. The term cosmic perspective was also mentioned by Tyson in Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. Back then, we emphasized how crucial the cosmic perspective is in fostering humility. If you can only see the tiny fraction happening on the ground, you're profoundly ignorant and arrogant, and you must frequently contemplate matters of the universe. This book represents Tyson's latest insights formed through years of contemplation and reflection. In an interview, Tyson mentioned that he wouldn't have been able to write this book a few years ago. Crafting such a book requires special circumstances. Tyson, being a physicist, a public figure due to his science communication endeavors, a former advisor to the U.S. president, and recently involved in political debates, has acquired a breadth of knowledge that enables him to offer insights beyond the grasp of ordinary individuals. How do you employ the cosmic perspective? Imagine you're an alien visiting Earth for the first time, carefully observing. You find human behavior rather peculiar. There's a famous tongue-in-cheek joke. After observing various human behaviors, an alien reported to its superiors that there's no sign of intelligent life on Earth. Why? Because there are too many illogical aspects within human civilization. Starry Messenger aims to illustrate what a logical civilization should look like. Tyson, you could say, starts from first principles, deducing the moral and cultural ceiling. You may not agree with this ceiling, but we can roughly discern the trend of moral and cultural evolution. In a logical civilization, the primary principle is objectivity. 1. What does objective mean? In everyday life, because everyone's environment and culture are different, most of our perspectives are subjective. We exhibit groupthink and identity politics and hold different values. But if you were to take the perspective of an alien, you'd realize that the supposed differences between individuals are inconsequential. You'd see that the commonalities among humans far outweigh the differences. You'd have a more objective perspective. Are there universally shared, objective values among all humans? Yes. For example, sunrise and sunset, total solar eclipses, the night sky, waterfalls. Regardless of your civilization, nationality, wealth, or education, you'd find them all stunningly beautiful. That's objective beauty. Objective means it's the same for everyone and everything. Tyson once said, "The good thing about science is that, it's true whether or not you believe in it." That's objectivity. The truth of objectivity itself is beautiful. Take, for instance, the value of pi. No matter the culture, grasping its significance evokes a profound sense of beauty. Einstein's mass-energy equivalence equation E equals mc squared. Simply seeing it, you'd find it beautiful. For physicists, one of the universe's most beautiful aspects is that we can comprehend it to some extent. Regardless of your cultural background, you'd find it impressive. Aliens would also appreciate these objective senses of beauty and values. But there are many values that aren't objective. In ancient China, being overweight was considered beautiful, whereas now, thinness is idealized. What one country perceives as a beautiful person, another might disagree. More dangerously, some people believe that their race is inherently superior. For instance, during World War II, some German Aryans claimed superiority not only over certain Jews but over all Jews. Is that possible? You don't even know all the Jews, so why assume you're superior to all of them? This kind of thinking is clearly not objective. It's indoctrinated. Aliens would find such value systems strange. In fact, aliens would find our act of categorizing people peculiar. 2. Categorization and continuous spectrum. People often say, there are 7 colors in total. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. But sunlight forms a continuous spectrum, so why split it into these 7 colors? In reality, colors can be categorized arbitrarily, with infinite subdivisions. If you work in home decoration, you'll recognize numerous different colors. Meteorologists typically classify hurricanes into 5 categories based on wind speed. A hurricane reaching Category 3 is newsworthy, but once it reaches Category 4, it's an entirely different level of news. But if you think about it carefully, there's an issue here. The threshold between Category 3 and 4 is a wind speed of 130 miles per hour. Is this number particularly significant? Why does crossing this threshold change things? The difference between weak Category 3 and strong Category 3 is much greater than between strong Category 3 and weak Category 4. The classification is merely for convenience. From this perspective, categorizing people into male and female seems unjustifiable, doesn't it? Tyson argues that most differences between men and women aren't innate but learned. Why should only women paint their nails, wear lipstick, necklaces, or grow long hair, while men cannot? These are purely cultural norms with no physical laws prohibiting men from doing the same. Even facial features aren't essential. Yes, men's faces tend to be more angular, while women's are softer. But this isn't absolute. Some men have facial features resembling women, and some women look like men. Tyson gives a fascinating example. Santa Claus always sets off with a bunch of reindeer, right? They all have antlers, so one might assume they're male. However, upon scientific investigation, reindeer, irrespective of gender, grow antlers. The antlers of male reindeer fall off in late autumn, while only female antlers can last until Christmas. Hence, scientifically speaking, all of Santa's reindeer are female. The logic here is that, to aliens, most differences between men and women, like the spectrum of sunlight or hurricane wind speeds, are continuous variations. So, categorizing people strictly into male and female lacks rationale. Saying only men can have leg hair, or women should have breast implants, would seem absurd to aliens. From this perspective, perhaps you can better understand the current trend of the LGBTQ+ movement in the West. The philosophy behind this movement is that gender should be a continuous spectrum, encompassing not only typical males and females but also including, but not limited to, lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender individuals, and those with non-binary identities. A person might have the physiology of one gender but the outward appearance and behavior of another. To aliens, this would seem entirely reasonable. If even the transition between male and female is continuous, then the same applies to race. 3. Race issues. Dividing people into black, white, and yellow based on skin color is evidently illogical, as human skin color forms a continuous spectrum. Skin color is actually an outcome of evolution. Regions closer to the equator receive intense sunlight, so indigenous populations tend to have darker skin. This is because melanin in the skin can absorb ultraviolet radiation, which is harmful and can lead to skin cancer. In regions with lower latitudes, this isn't an issue, allowing lighter-skinned populations to persist. That's all. You might argue, but black people not only have dark skin, but they also have lower intelligence. This is prejudice. The relatively lower IQ among African Americans compared to other races might be due to historical, environmental, or educational factors, hardly attributable to innate characteristics. Tyson himself serves as an excellent example. He's African American, yet his intelligence surpasses that of almost all Americans. Some used to claim that black people resemble chimpanzees, implying inferior evolution. In response, Tyson presents a series of facts. Chimpanzees are covered in hair, and the most hair-covered race of humans is whites. Chimpanzees have large ears, and the race with the largest ears is also whites. Neanderthals, a species now extinct and considered primitive, contributed 1% to 3% of their genes to Europeans, while Africans have none. Parasites prefer to lay eggs on the hair of chimpanzees and whites, not on black people's hair. Whites are more prone to lice. So, who hasn't evolved properly? If you insist on comparing to chimpanzees, Tyson counters by highlighting racial disparities. Whites are 25 times more likely to get skin cancer than blacks. Whites are much more susceptible to conditions like itchy skin, psoriasis, acne compared to blacks. White skin ages faster than black skin. With age, white people experience a decrease in bone mineral density, making them prone to fractures, unlike blacks. The suicide rate among whites is 2.5 times higher than among blacks. Faced with these facts, can you still claim white superiority over black people? Furthermore, you don't even understand what black people means. Black people aren't a singular category. There are numerous racial groups. All humans currently on Earth originated from Homo sapiens in Africa. Those who left Africa are the minority, while those who remained are the majority. Consequently, the racial diversity among those who remained in Africa exceeds that of the rest of the world. High diversity implies a greater likelihood of extremes. That's why the world's slowest and fastest runners are both in Africa. That's why the tallest and shortest people are also in Africa. Yes, the world's tallest people aren't Dutch but the Watusi people living in Rwanda and Burundi in Africa. And this also means the world's dumbest and smartest people should be in Africa. Are there high-intelligence races in Africa? Yes. The average chess ratings of the top 10 players in Zambia exceed those of Luxembourg, Japan, and South Korea. Nigerian immigrants in the US have significantly higher incomes than the national average. Particularly, the Igbo tribe in Nigeria. Their children, upon immigrating to the UK, achieve significantly higher exam scores than British whites. Africa's just disadvantaged, not genetically inferior. If Africa becomes developed in the future, perhaps Nobel laureates will all be black. But to aliens, none of this matters. To them, there are only earthlings, no distinctions between one race or another. Tens of thousands of years ago, we were all one family. Tyson has a particularly good saying. He said, "I don't need to look at any remarkable figures in my family history to motivate myself. My role models are those throughout all of humanity who have achieved great accomplishments. If they can, I can, because everyone is related to everyone." This part's theme is breaking your ego. Transcending identity-based thinking. Viewing the world with a cosmic perspective broadens your mind significantly. During Clinton's presidency, he borrowed a rock from the moon from NASA, placing it in the Oval Office. Whenever a politician argued with him, he'd make them look at the rock, asking them to imagine standing on the moon and contemplating how insignificant our earthly squabbles are. Edgar Mitchell, who spent 9 hours walking on the moon, once said, "From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, 'Look at that, you son of a bitch.' That's the magic of the cosmic perspective. Once you've experienced seeing Earth from the moon, your perspective on life changes entirely." Lastly, let me share a story related to China. In 2003, Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei entered space for the first time aboard Shenzhou 5, surpassing Japan in the field of space exploration. Japanese felt a bit sour, feeling China had outpaced them in the competition for national development. A Japanese astronaut had once been to the space station with Americans. Japanese journalists interviewed him, asking if he envied China. The astronaut's response was, "People on the ground might feel envious. But once you're in space, everything on the ground seems utterly insignificant." That's the content for this part. In the next section, we'll discuss the world as seen through the eyes of science students.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.